What's up, YouTube? Smells like Vin here, and I'm gonna be doing another episode of Music Talk, where I bring up a topic, and you guys participate. And I got my brother Nick here.
What's up, guys?
And Nick came up with a really great idea of what to do for this episode. He said we should talk about kind of exploring new forms of music and music exploration in general. Maybe finding out music that you never even knew existed, like some sort of subgenre, or a band that is really, it's really like for you, you just didn't know it, and you're looking for different types of genres, and you just find that one band or that one album or that one genre that you're really into, and all because you kind of dug deep into albums and bands and lists on the internet and things like that. And so I guess what we should probably do is talk about genres we didn't think we would like, that we ended up liking, ways to get into new music, and just music exploration in general. So do you want to start, or do you want me to kind of open it up and then
I'll start.
Okay, cool.
I think music is a very exciting thing. And I think when there's such a large world out there, there's so much to listen to. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful experience when you find that album that blows you away, that new sound that you didn't think existed, you didn't think would be as engaging as it is, you didn't think you would enjoy it as much as you do. And I sort of started my musical journey in the beginning of 10th grade. I just started 11th, it's October, so the year sort of just started. And I listened to everything. I got into some DC hardcore, which was huge for me. I didn't know there was such amazing raw music. But I think out of all these different music genres that I was getting into, folk, which I haven't admittedly delved into, as much as I would like to, hip-hop, for example, I always had suspicions about. I always had, I played into the stereotypes, and then I found myself obsessed with hip-hop. Wu-Tang, Biggie, or the staples that we all know, to some other lesser known, more abstract, maybe more, just more underground acts, Death Grips, and just the list goes on and on. I can't even pull them all out. There's so many.
Yeah, you listen to a lot of hip-hop.
Exactly. But I think that you need to give everything a chance. And that's why I think my music interest has blossomed so much, because I sort of said, okay, if I'm gonna listen to all this music, I need to listen to all this music. I need to not say, well, let me disregard this because it doesn't sound like something I'd enjoy. And let me not listen to this because I've heard people say it wasn't that great. You know what I mean? I need to listen to it for myself and make up my own opinion, and that's exploration. That's how you get to know things. So
Cool. And is there any genre that you thought, nah, like that's not for me. This sounds either too complicated or it's too, basically just complicated for me to kind of delve into because you thought the music you listened to was too simplistic? Or was there always a sense of like, nah, I can basically take on anything and,
it was sort of a sense of, nah, I can just do it and listen to it and enjoy it for what it is, because I had the drive. I had the drive to listen to more music, exactly.
Right.
But I think like when I first got into Beach House, very dreamy pop music, a female singer, that was out of my element. I listened to it and I sort of felt silly. Like, I was like, what am I doing? Like, am I really going to get into this? Like, I felt like I was trying to be overly sophisticated. And when I got into Fleet Foxes and I got into, like, I was listening to a lot of punk. Like, Ceremony, Adolescence, the Adolescence.
Wait, you got an Adolescence out?
Mm-hmm.
I should have asked you about them because I've been curious about them. I didn't even know.
Minor Threat,
Germs too?
Yeah.
Shit, I didn't even know that. I know you listen to Minor
The
Threat
list
and
just
Bad
goes on
Brains.
and
I
on.
didn't know.
And I think that at first I wanted to understand why I felt that way. And eventually, like with grindcore, when I first heard Napalm Death, Wormrot, Terrorizer, Insect Warfare, my mind was blown. I didn't know that such aggressive music was out there. And that was a genre that no holds barred. Like, I didn't feel disgruntled. I didn't feel like, oh, well, why am I listening to this? It was very natural, and it fit with me. But I was actually going to ask you the same question, because I know that, you know, you're heavily into doom metal and stoner metal, and the Melvins, in a way, introduced you to that.
No, yeah, you're right.
Sort of. But it was more Sleep that got you into the stoner metal.
Sleep, you're right. Melvin's got me interested, because when I first started getting into music, and I'm glad you brought that up, because you just reminded me of that, and I needed to use that as like a little link. But I listened to basically like 3 bands, and that was it. System of a Down, Slipknot, and Korn. Korn and System I still think are cool, System especially. Slipknot I don't care for anymore, but the point is, I limited myself. I was like, you know what? That's what I'm into. I'm into harder-edged music, and I kind of drew a line. And I remember towards the end of 9th grade, I got into a little band called the Smashing Pumpkins. And the Smashing Pumpkins basically totally changed how I thought about music and how I perceived music. Because if you know early Smashing Pumpkins, they are very warm, very euphoric, even if the lyrics don't necessarily dictate a certain feeling. Very happy, very just warm. And I remember receiving that in an amazing way. I got into Gish and Siamese Dream, and I remember hearing songs like Rhinoceros and being like, wow, like it touched me in a way that other music hadn't. Now, I never left heavy music. In fact, now I listen to even more heavy music than I did before, just more, you know, extremities of it.
Thrash.
But, right, exactly, death metal, doom metal, shit like that. But then all that soft music was a supplement to everything else I was listening to. And so then I gained an interest in dream pop. And you know, dream pop and shoegaze and noise pop. And I remember I got a Sundays album, which, if you don't know, the Sundays were a British pop band, and girl singer, really relaxed instrumentation, dreamy musicianship, and I remember downloading it, and I heard the first song, and I was like, no, what am I doing? You know what I mean? This isn't for me.
Exactly.
I couldn't. I thought I wasn't going to be able to get into it.
Feel disgruntled. You feel like you're not. Your musical mind isn't
there yet.
Isn't there yet? Exactly.
And it kind of made me feel shitty. I was like, damn, oh really? This is kind of what I want. You know what I mean? So I sat down and I listened to it, and it blew me. And that album still blows me away. It was Reading, Writing, and Arithmetic, which was their debut album, released 1990, and it, from the first song to the last, was exactly what I was looking for in that genre, dreamy pop, and I was like, wow. And that opened the gates, kind of, for me, and then I knew that... Are you gonna say something?
Yeah. Finish your thought.
Oh, no, it's cool.
Okay, yeah.
It basically opened gates to where I said, okay, well now...
That part made me think of something.
Let's go. I can get in everything else. It wasn't like I was limited anymore. That one album...
That's the key.
It pushed me to where I needed to be to enjoy bands like Mazzy Star.
Damn, that totally summed up about how
Jesus
I feel.
and Mary Chain, and another important kind of musical... I don't know, what's the word? Portal, musical. I guess. Portal.
Well, I think when we gave ourselves to specific albums that we thought we couldn't listen to, that's exactly it. Then the light bulb went off.
Yeah,
and when I first started listening to hip-hop, then post-hardcore and screamo,
yes,
which was, you know, a musical genre that I would always mock the shit out of.
Yeah.
And always say that's stupid, that makes
no sense. It makes you think, well, if I can get into this,
exactly,
well, why can't I get into that?
Everything.
Right, exactly.
And that's what sort of broke down the barrier for me. When I first listened to Loma Prieta, Seisha, I Have Dreams, Hot Cross, Orchard, Page 99, and even some newer, more modern screamo, Sunny Day Real Estate, which is more emo.
Really?
But that's when I sort of started to pick up speed. And it sucks too because there's so much shit I listen to and I'm forgetting a lot of like breakthrough albums that I've been listening to.
Really?
And a lot of albums that sort of changed the way I thought about music. I wish I had like a list.
Well,
like I'm forgetting the shit that I've been
I feel like
listening
for me, like in the beginning of this year, what the fuck am I talking about? 10th grade, I got heavily into the Melvins, and I remember the Melvins are still a band that they make me kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like I almost don't get them. They're such a genius band.
They're to me what
point of being an artist
point of
is.
being an artist is.
You're right.
Music.
Mm-hmm.
I think people tend to forget that music
It's
is
an art
art.
form, yes.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Music, that's why I can't stand when people say grindcore is just noise.
Just like if I were to take a bunch of paint and throw it on a canvas, it's art.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was just gonna say that.
You might not like it, but
if you make a painting that's chaotic
Uh-huh.
and doesn't have a structure, does that make it any less of a piece of art?
because you thought about it
Of course
before
not.
you did
No,
it.
it doesn't.
Right.
It does not.
Uh-huh.
So I think, if anything, grindcore is the most musical of all because it's taking chaotic, in-your-face ideas, aggression, and putting them into
And
music.
like synthesizing.
Putting them into
Yeah,
sound
uh-huh.
and making them a physical idea.
Right.
And that's what makes it so appealing.
Exactly.
That's why Napalm Death, when
Yeah.
I hear it, makes me want to go apeshit. Because it's aggression to the highest degree
Yeah.
in a musical form.
You suffer, but
And that's what the Melvins do. That's what musicians
Damn,
who
you're on a roll.
who
Shit.
people look at as maybe that doesn't sound so musical and that's not as harmonious. That doesn't make it any less music, and that's the step I had to take.
And well, same thing with me. I got into the Melvins, and you're on a roll. And I got into the Melvins, and I remember I heard Ozma, which is still one of my favorite albums of all time, and I heard it, and it was like this slow, oozing music, and the vocals almost sound like he was like in pain, and as he was singing them, Buzz Osborne, and it made me wonder why it sounded the way it did and how the band thought about it. Was it just natural to them? Did they just sit down and say, let's practice, and then after a while they're like, oh shit, okay, we're doing really slow music? Did they meditate it to the nth degree? How did it come about? And I remember I heard Lysol. And Lysol is the band's fourth full-length LP released 1992.
Yeah,
it's fourth. And I remember hearing the intro to the album Hung Bunny. And Hung Bunny is a instrumental which is just consisted of deep notes being basically rung, and they just kind of ring out, and they're layered, and they're really fuzzy guitar tone, really deep, thick, rich guitar tone, and I remember being
Blown away.
hypnotized by it, and thinking,
Wow.
how can music even sound like this? And then that got me into doom metal, because it was slow, sludge metal, because it was sludgy, and stoner metal, because it was trippy. Stony, right. And that's, I feel, how a lot of stuff starts for me. I get into a band that introduces me to an idea, and then I think, this is awesome. What else sounds like this? And another thing, and this is one of my most important musical journeys ever, is when I got into Jimi Hendrix. And Jimi Hendrix, of course, greatest guitar player who ever lived, and everyone knows that. But among all his other great merits, I think a lot of people forget that he is deeply rooted in the blues. He grew up listening to B.B. King, Muddy Waters, Buddy Guy, Robert Johnson, really Delta blues, Chicago blues. And I remember listening to Jimmy and being like, wow, I really want to get into blues.
That's a great point. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem.
That's a fantastic point, because I think you're never, ever, really, in any musical endeavor.
Away from influence.
You're
Yeah.
you're never listening to a pure genre.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's ever white and black in music.
Mm-hmm.
You're always, if someone says just death metal, no thrash metal,
Mm-hmm. No doom metal.
no doom metal, no hard rock, nothing else. That's impossible.
You're gonna find something that's different about it.
You're gonna hear thrash influence in death metal. Therefore, if you listen to thrash metal and death metal, you now have
The link.
another piece of the puzzle,
Uh-huh.
of this musical puzzle.
Of how it evolved and moved
exactly.
and shifted.
So when
right.
you listen to everything,
you get an understanding of what
exactly
the spectrum of
exactly
like,
you
yeah.
sort of see the rainbow, if you will,
Uh-huh.
and you see why this sounds like this,
Mhm.
because this sounds like this,
Yeah.
and this can't sound like this.
If this doesn't
if
sound
this
like
doesn't
that,
sound
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And that's why listening to a lot of genres of music is important. If you don't like genre A, but genre A influenced the genre you like, genre B,
You take the best from
exactly.
each, yeah.
You need to at least understand why you don't like it
Uh-huh.
and why it influenced
Uh-huh.
it. And that's where not being a musical snob comes into
Uh-huh.
play. I'm not saying that everyone
gonna
needs
love
to
every
listen to
genre.
everything.
Yeah.
Because
Like a music dictator.
that's not what makes you musically happy. You need to listen to what makes you happy.
Mhm.
But you need to understand why it makes you musically happy.
Mhm.
And how it came to sound like that.
Mhm.
And that's what makes music for me so exciting.
Mhm.
So
Totally. And so and that's the thing. I went through the whole thing like blues since like 1920s.
Yeah.
What the hell am I gonna
Exactly,
start?
exactly.
Where the hell am I going? It was like I looked at
Dive
a
in,
list
dive
and it
in.
was like
yeah.
Chicago blues, country blues, electric blues,
Yeah.
psychedelic blues, 60s blues. It was just so much shit. And I was like, I don't think that's necessary in my opinion, but I was like, where do I start?
But the thing is, when you start listening to it,
then everything makes sense.
then it is necessary.
Right, exactly. You kind of dig. And I remember getting a Howlin' Wolf album, Moaning in the Moonlight, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest blues albums. Moaning in the Moonlight, yep. And, I would think Howlin', because like Howlin' Wolf, but either way. And that album floored me. Like, I remember hearing the really stripped down, low down and dirty harmonica, Wolf's gravelly voice, the really light drums. They were really understated, but they had oh, thirsty. Can I get that real quick? Cause my
Thanks.
and
I'm literally dying.
yeah, I don't usually drink in my videos, but in one video I did, and I made like a big deal out of it. I have like a drink, and
The casual sip of drink.
exactly right, and it's good for these type of long things. So the drumming was understated. Usually I was used to bands that were like, listen to all these fills and listen to a blues beat. And it was interesting to me because everything was just so light, but at the same time it was powerful. And I heard, oh shit, 12-bar blues is exactly what Red House is by Jimi Hendrix. It's just instead of harmonica, he's using his guitar like the fucking wizard that he is. But I realized there it is, and
There's the connection.
Right, and everything started to make sense to me. Then I started to get into big city blues like B.B. King with big instrumentation, instruments, all these brass things, interesting kind of nimble note lead work by B.B. King and all this stuff. Then I got into Buddy Guy, who loved Buddy Guy, who specialized in kind of slow blues in certain albums, like A Man in the Blues. Then I got into Muddy Waters, who was the king of Chicago blues. Then I got into Robert Johnson, and Robert Johnson was a blues musician who specialized in acoustic blues in like the 1920s, and that was crazy for me because it was just so old. It was just a man, his guitar, and his 2-track, and was really young. And so now I feel like I'm in a really good spot where I can basically, get anywhere. I could basically look up any genre. You know, now I'm really heavily into thrash metal, a lot of Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, and it's just so much fun to me. It's one of, by far, the most exciting things in my life, is to sit down and say, okay, this is a cool genre. This band I really like, and they're in kind of that genre. I want to find more on this genre, and I branch out.
Set the journey.
Then
that's when
exactly, and you
wind down the road.
Exactly, you just keep climbing and climbing, and I got into punk a little later than Nick, but punk was another thing that, like, I remember hearing Black Flag's Damage.
He was transformed by it. I told him, you know, when I first started getting into Bad Brains and Black Flag and you know, all the punk bands that I mentioned earlier, he was sort of, not spectacle, but...
He just didn't really have interest.
Skeptical. Spectacles. You know, but then, and I think that's an exciting thing too, sharing music. Feeding off each other's,
right.
Which I have the perfect partner for that. Yeah. I'm happy that you don't listen to shit that I would never touch.
Yeah, but, yeah.
But I think...
We have all disagreements,
yeah,
but for the most part, yeah.
But I think, that's fine. But
what song? Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of hip hop that I listen to that Vin wouldn't touch, but but there's a lot of music that he listens to that I wouldn't touch. But I think, you know, in terms of genre exploration, if I was to give you guys tips, and I don't want to sound all fucking high and mighty on my high horse, because I'm just like anyone else listening to music. But if you're hearing this video, and maybe you're listening to maybe 1-2 genres, give yourself completely to exploration. You'd be so surprised at how much music you like.
And then you'll step back and be like, holy shit, I'm listening to this
how
right
much
now.
music you'll truly enjoy. And how much music will fill you with happiness, will make you content, will make you think, you know, will put you in a spot in your life that's unexplainable. I've never had such a satisfying, I don't know the word. I've never discovered something so meaningful than different genres of music.
And it's endless, too.
It's like you get pieces of history where music has came out of. It's just...
And there's
just so great.
You're really on the ball with that, because there's certain bands that you literally can't believe that they sound like that. Like, when I first got into punk, I got Black Flag's Damaged, and I thought that shit like...
You don't know where it came from.
Exactly. I thought that fucking shit like Korn and Slipknot, which I'm not bashing them, was like brutal and angry, and I still think they're okay. But when I heard Damaged by Black Flag, that album...
And that's coming from... I'm not even a huge fan of that.
Yeah, he doesn't even really love that album that much. I'm not even a huge fan of that album.
I'd much rather...
like Keith Morris and shit,
much rather prefer that.
I love that too, but I got in Damaged, and I heard that album is seething. If you were to pick up the disc, it would be hot.
It would bite you.
It hurts you.
It's angry.
It's the most hostile... and it literally makes you almost scared. Like songs like Damage 2 is... It's like rage, pure rage, fused with instruments. It's unbelievable, and I said, this is awesome. And then I got into Bad Brains, and Bad Brains are, I think,
not as angry.
You're right, they're not as angry, which is why I like them.
Just furious.
You're right, for DC Hardcore, they are a lot. In fact,
they got PMA.
They got PMA, Positive Mental Attitude. There's a song Attitude, we got that PMA. And that, funny enough, there's another example of how music can change you. I remember I got Bad Brains album, and I listened to it, and I was like, it's okay. I wasn't really paying attention to it. And then on the next morning, I got on the bus and I put it on. And it, from Sailing On all the way to the hidden track at the end, which isn't a hidden track, I think it's called like it's called Jam, I think, or like Hidden Track or something like that.
Something.
Yeah, just some reggae jam, and which is awesome because they lost the fine, and I literally couldn't believe that music could sound like that. And I remember just the more and more I listened to it, and it still blows me away. I was just listening to some their self-titled album just not too long ago, and it still blows me away. And I remember it changed me. I started having a change of, and punk did that in general, which I don't agree with groups like the metalheads, the punks, the people who I think you could be all of those, but it started making me think about the people who I was hanging out with, the people who I was giving into. I started to feel like I wanted to be more independent, and I know that sounds a bit overdramatic, like, I listened to this band and now I'm free, and like, whatever, but it made me feel, I started to question things because the music was just so powerful.
The video is getting long. I don't give a fuck what
Me neither.
And just
people,
in case you want
I love my subscribers. You guys are awesome because not only am I at almost 100, you guys watch all my videos.
Let's get to 100.
Let's get to 100. You guys watch all my videos from the beginning to the end, and I can tell because when you leave a comment, it goes over everything. But we're gonna try to make it. Wow, it's gonna be a half hour.
At least
people love this shit.
26, yeah. So quick point. What albums changed your life or changed the way you listen to music?
The album that changed by far my way, there's been a couple. One would be Gish by the Smashing Pumpkins, like I said, got me into softer music. Two would be Lysol, like I said, got me into really slow, heavy music. But the album that kind of crept up into my life and showed me how emotionally powerful music can be is an album called Psycho Candy by the Jesus and Mary Chain. And I remember I heard it in the winter when I was in 10th grade, and I was like, no.
Is it okay if this goes over half hour?
Oh, no, yeah, I have the ability to upload 15-minute videos and even above that.
Okay, cool.
So it's all good.
Remember, we get 15 minutes uploads. We're trash.
Yeah. We, just regard that, you guys won't get it.
Sorry, yeah, I had to say it. Sorry, I totally
but no, I don't give a shit, it's cool. Psycho Candy. I listened to it, I was like, nah, not my thing. So I had a piece of hair in my mouth, and
Come on in, you're getting out of the flame.
okay. I remember I just didn't like it. I was into shoegaze at the kind of a little, but it just didn't do anything for me. You want to take that off real quick?
No, I'm good.
Positive?
Yeah.
All right. And so I didn't like it. I got it about 3 months later, didn't like it. Tried to listen to it again, a month later, didn't like it. I just couldn't get into it. Nothing.
It's a grower.
Nothing changed. Exactly. And I remember, that is an awesome rhyme. I've never heard that. I remember towards the end of 10th grade, I was in a great mood. School was ending. I was a little sad because I kind of had to say goodbye to a couple people who I really liked, and I didn't want to. But so much was happening in my life. I was just overcome with emotions and feelings and hopes of what's going to happen next. I'm going into 11th grade.
Which apparently turned out to be 10 times better than 10th grade.
Right, it is way better than 10th grade.
10th grade.
And I had all these aspirations and feelings, and I was sort of anxious. And the soundtrack to that time in my life is Psycho Candy, or was Psycho Candy. And if you don't know, Psycho Candy is, in my opinion, a noise pop album. Yes, it influenced shoegaze, but you get really fuzzy guitars, noisy fucking amps, really soft, sweet vocal melodies, and a warm sound. And I remember being captivated by that album. Like, I loved it, and I listened to it all the time. And now, every time I listen to it, which this is another topic I want to do with you, I think. Maybe not just by myself, but with you next time. How memories get attached with music, and it makes the music almost painfully potent. Like, whenever I listen to Psycho Candy, I want to cry. It's so powerful to me.
That's a great point, too.
That I think about that time, and I almost don't like listening to it if I'm not in a good mood because it doesn't coincide well with me. And I have to listen to it on like a sunny day or something because it just makes me so happy. And I think about that time and I get, for lack of a better term, warm and fuzzy. And I get this sense of high, like a sense of euphoria that nothing in the world can inject into me but that album. It's amazing.
I think one album that
he needs to listen to that album. I keep telling him to listen to it.
I haven't listened to it yet. I will. I should. One album that didn't just change my life, like took my fucking world and just.
I think I know what you're gonna say.
Flipped it.
Nutrimilk Hotel, In the Airplane Over the Sea.
Nutrimilk Hotel, In the Airplane Over the Sea.
One of the best albums ever made.
Right now, everyone's like, oh, God.
Yeah, hipster.
Yeah. But the emotions on that album, the sounds on that album, the lyrics, the ideas, the imagery are so delicate, are so deep and tender. And I don't think any album has ever hit such an emotional high point. So that's one album that for me hit home and that I continue to look back on and every fucking time I hear Two-Headed Boy Part 2, tears. I bust into tears every fucking time.
And out of all the albums,
every time.
I mention in my reviews, I don't know if I tell you, but I always say this is what my brother got me into because he gets me into a lot of music. God bless him for getting me into that album because I remember I'm not the type of guy who's like, I'm a man, I can't get emotional with anything because that's not true. I just don't. If I watch a movie that's sad, yeah, that's sad.
You don't cry.
That's it. I don't cry or anything. Not because I think I can. It's never happened. Yeah. I listened to that album in this room, actually. I was on this bed, and I was kind of listening to it, closing my eyes, and I was like, this is cool. Heard the very first song, King of Cat Flowers, Part 1, tears. It killed me inside to hear some of these lyrics that Jeff Mangum, guitarist and singer, is singing about. And a lot of the time, I don't even know what the hell he's singing about, but they're just so potent and powerful.
It's the fact that they're so abstract that makes them so disturbing. But I think the album that, out of all of them, really, I'm sure you know this one too.
Don't really tell me, I'm excited.
Truly
I'm gonna tell me.
shook my world crazy upside down. Was
I know.
In the 7th grade, Rage Against the Machine. That album,
hell yeah,
made me feel so empowered and made me feel important, made me feel like I can't explain it. And for you who have listened to Rage Against the Machine, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I think it was such a perfect time for that album to come into my life. It was such a formative part of my life. So I think when I heard Take the Power, when I heard Take the Power Back,
Take the Power Back, boom, boom.
I felt like they were singing right to me. And I know that's the cliche, but it's the truth. I felt like there was no better time for me to hear that album. And of course, Evil Empire. I think out of all of the albums, Evil Empire is my favorite.
You think?
But I think the one that changed my life so much was Rage.
Yeah.
And that changed the way I listen to music.
And they're still his favorite band.
And they're still my favorite band.
And that's the cool thing. That shows how powerful a band can be.
Amazing.
He's listened to so much different types of music. Well, I almost took you out my elbow, sorry. But a band like that, who they're not generic or anything, but they're not so out there.
Yeah.
Is his favorite band. And
they're fucking weird.
They're crazy. And, I guess where we should end it. Do you have anything else to say? Just go.
No, just
video's long.
Leave comments because I'm really curious. I don't know too much about his sub base. I just don't know too much about them.
They're awesome.
So
cool.
Please leave comments. Tell us anything you'd like. Just about in relation to what we're talking about.
Share stories about how you got into music.
How you went about your musical journey and maybe albums that got you into genres. Real quick, random.
Yeah.
What do you think was the easiest, smoothest transition into a certain genre. An album that right from the get-go you were like, that's it, I'm into this genre. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I mean?
I could. I think the easiest genre for me to get into was probably, I think, either death metal or thrash metal.
Cool.
Because I'm a metalhead deep down. I love heavy metal. It's one of my favorite genres, and I could listen to it all day. And I heard Eaten Back to Life by Cannibal Corpse, which I know a lot of people don't like Cannibal Corpse, but I think they're cool. I heard it, and I was like, yeah, I'm into death metal. Give me more. And I got to kind of take all of it in.
Yeah. And for me, it was... Did I totally just interrupt you?
No.
No? for me, hip-hop. Hip-hop. When I first heard Wu-Tang...
Up to the 36 chambers!
No mas. Done. Done. Like, I was good. Like, I knew right there that up from the 36 chambers. I knew right from there that I was gonna be in hip-hop and grindcore. When I first heard Dirge, Warren Watt's second LP, I was like, fuck. It was mind-blowing, but yeah, I guess that's it.
Alright, so I guess I'm just gonna end it real quick and say, thank you for you guys who I don't even know what time we're at. 30 seconds, it's not that bad. If people can upload like 2-minute podcasts and shit,
we can upload 36
2 hours.
minutes.
I want to thank you guys for watching all of it. I know it was long, but I feel like we had enough meat in it to warrant that
I
length.
hope you guys stick around this long.
Yeah, I hope. And I want to thank you guys for commenting, sharing your thoughts, and just being awesome. I love having a YouTube channel. It allows me to talk about things that, not that I couldn't talk about with other people, because that's not true, but things that I wouldn't. For example, maybe a genre of music that no one else, even him, really has an interest in, and I could take it to you guys, and you guys comment, and you guys say what you think, and it makes me feel great. I'm at 96 subs, and you guys are awesome. So, thank you for all of you who watched even half of this video, and if you enjoyed it, if you could, like, subscribe if you're new, and maybe share with your friends. I've noticed the effect of sharing. If you think this is a cool video, maybe link it on a Twitter or Facebook. I've seen a couple of my videos up on Facebook, including bands that I've talked about, which was really cool, and I understand the power of doing that. So, this video has gone on too long. I want to thank my brother for doing this with me. He was totally on a roll. He did a really good job.
I just wanted to say I have a great time doing this. If you guys enjoy the double videos, please let us know, because I'm having tons of fucking fun. I had more fun doing this than I did last video. I don't want to keep rambling on.
Nope, don't even. It's cool.
Thanks for watching. You guys definitely make him a happy camper, because he really likes hearing you guys, how you guys feel about his videos. This is something he's been wanting to do for a while, and I think it's really great what you guys have going on, and I guess that's it. Thank you for watching.
Nice job, Nick. That was really awesome.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys later.